12 years from now, there will be a live-action Sonic movie based on my video.
The savior, the prophet, TheMentok has come back. Meow? I'd be scrambling to get a new design for Sonic going. The answer is yes. Push this movie back a few more months just so they can get the design right. Sonic's design doesn't seem that bad anymore. Yes. Yes. He looks so much better. Yes. This looks like a totally different movie. After 9 months of controversy, 9 months of pain, 9 months of confusion, 9 months of intense marketing, 9 months of speculation, 9 months of an emotional roller coaster among Sonic fans, 9 months of TheMentok's revival, and finally, it's all led up to this moment. Greetings, my children. It is TheMentok, the prophet, YouTube's savior, and we're finally down to this moment. Music, stop! Yes, I'm here today to talk to you about my thoughts of the Sonic movie. This movie built this channel. This movie was something I've been waiting for years. Before it was even announced, I've been waiting for a moment like this for quite some time. You can look at all of my old videos and see how much I wanted this to come to fruition, and it's finally happened. How is this movie? I'll tell you right now, if you're a Sonic fan, you're covered. No one's making fun of you for this film. This is a film that was made for the general audience, but also is just something so satisfying for the fans. I'm gonna say spoilers at some point in this video, but let me just give my general review of it. As a Sonic fan, this has everything that you want. As an origin story, I've always been very careful about Sega doing an origin story, and they've always been very careful about that too. I think that that's just an easy plot for them to do, but they haven't cashed in on that because I feel like they never wanted to tread that ground. We've seen it in a couple of comics, but never in the game continuity. This movie does a great job building that origin story. This is just a very innocent story, and the fact that I found this movie so adorable. I've always looked at Sonic as an iconic game character with a personality that's been cool, but this movie takes this weird turn to make Sonic the most adorable thing I've seen ever. I'll just put it out there. This was a very cute movie, and people say it was for kids, but I feel like in my theater, more parents were there with their kids to see it rather than take their kids to a movie. The kids were up and they were talking through the entire thing. I'm not saying they weren't interested, but kids can't sit still during a movie. I don't know how you can watch a movie with kids anyway, but that's beside the point. It is a well-built story. It is not something that is gonna win an Oscar. It's not supposed to be, something that the critics I would expect to understand. But from beginning to end, it's a full story. There's no gaps in between, action. There's some exposition, but me loving Sonic lore in general, it worked for me. And there's a bunch of Easter eggs that I think you guys should look out for when you go see the movie. All these actors did a great job. Normally when you have an anthropomorphic animal in a human world, the humans are so dumb and stupid that you just can't take the movie because they're so dumb and stupid. In this movie, James Marsden is just very, very believable as a character. I mean, there's a couple of corny segments, but James Marsden as a person, as well as Tika Sumpter and a few other human characters, especially Jim Carrey, but I don't count Jim Carrey because he's Robotnik in this case. But everyone else is kind of believable. You have like the silly government agents who'd make a cameo and you can tell they're hammy like military people, but they don't get a lot of screen time, so I wasn't too worried about that. But the rest of the characters in this movie were super believable as humans interacting with Sonic. It was a big relief because I was worried about that more than anything else. How these guys would interact with Sonic as a character. Jim Carrey knocks it out the park. Jim Carrey is Jim Carrey in this movie, and I will wait till the spoiler section to say all this stuff, but everyone thought he would carry this movie. I don't think he carried the whole movie. I believe that he did a great job. Like, he just made me laugh, and he just had so much presence on screen. He hasn't lost his touch at all. And I think he plays a very good Robotnik, and that's the thing. I was a little skeptical at first because I've seen Eggman in every different way possible, but I was so pleased with what he brought to the character. Interviews before this, you see that Jim understands the character. He knows how to work it and make it his own. We have rare backstory on Robotnik as a human being, and same with Sonic. We don't have too much backstory behind these two. These guys really build it. Sonic is a little bit different. He's a little bit more of a derivative, and I'll get more into that in the spoiler section, but Robotnik is very believable. If you were to take him and then apply it to the rest of the games, I would believe this was his backstory in the first place. So now I'm going to start talking about spoilers. The plot is very simple, and at the very beginning, we see baby Sonic in his world being raised by some owl character named Longclaw. And this owl character is attacked by echidnas. I don't know what they're doing with that lore. We haven't seen any type of lore like that before. So this owl raises Sonic, gets shot. We assume that she's dead, but they're hunted down for Sonic's power by this tribe of echidnas. Now, we saw a couple of sneak peeks of that before it came out, but yeah, they pretty much look like echidnas. So I'm wondering how they're gonna meld that in, if that's supposed to be in a sequel. I really think that that's sequel bait to bring in Knuckles as a character, because his people are definitely there. So based on that, they're attacked by these echidnas for Sonic's power, and we use these rings to transfer different worlds. And she sends him to the human world at a very young age, where he lives his life in the shadows, not seen by a single person. And he gets to know these people in Green Hills, especially Tom, who's played by James Marsden. And so he gets to know Tom and his girlfriend, played by Tika Sumpter. Really is basically stalking these people. They make a few jokes about it. So we see Sonic interacting with himself several times, and I think these early scenes with him are just gold. This is Sonic interacting with himself, and he moves so fast that they start doing camera shots where he's interacting with himself, but he looks like completely different characters. It looks like there's multiple versions of him because he's moving that fast. I think that's super well done. There's a baseball scene where he's playing the entire field by himself. Catcher, pitcher, batter, left field, outfield, all that stuff. He's playing all those roles, and I think it's such a great scene because it just shows like his loneliness at the same time as playfulness. But it's it showcases how fast he is, and he's very different from the game Sonic. And I can believe that he's a younger version of Sonic before he gains that confidence, before he gains that snarkiness. Some people are complaining that he's a little too sporadic and he just talks a little bit too much, and I see what they were trying to do, but I think Ben Schwartz knocks it out of the park with that personality. The design, oh my gosh. The redesign, like from start to finish, I was just encapsulated in that design. It was so well done. I mean, we could have easily translated his current game version in there, but I think this actually fits very well. Shout outs to all the animators that spent countless hours working on that. There's been rumors that that whole team was fired, and there's a lot of politics behind that, but I won't get into it in this video. So shout out to those guys that put in amazing work redesigning that, as well as Tyson Hess, who was a consultant to get that design right in the first place. So Sonic overuses his energy and kind of knocks out the power, which puts him in the highlights of the US military, and they send Jim Carrey, aka Robotnik, out there to stop or find out what did this in the first place, and he takes refuge with James Marsden's character, Tom. The interaction between these guys is just so believable. He goes in, James sees him for the first time, or Tom sees him for the first time, freaks out, shoots him with a tranquilizer gun, and he loses all the rings to transfer worlds. So I won't spoil everything, but the first interaction of Tom and Sonic lead them on this entire road trip with Robotnik on their heels. And just the interaction between them, there's several scenes, there's several homages to the Quicksilver scene in X-Men in this film. And at first I was just like, okay, you got this straight out of the X-Men book, but I can tell it was a bit of a homage, but it's also showing the sheer speed of Sonic, and there's only so many ways that you can do that. But as a speedster, I think it did a good job covering those bases, and it was there's several enjoyable scenes with Sonic just tapping into his speed. So you see him start to pick up certain abilities that we're so familiar with now in the games, things like that. And I just thought that it was such a well-crafted story, and the bond between the characters is just so believable by the end of it. The human characters are actually pretty lovable. Tom's sister-in-law is one of the greatest cliches of all time. She's hilarious. She's trying to get them to break up the entire movie or get a divorce. They're married. She has it out for Tom, and it's such a believable character because there are a lot of people like that just try to break up couples because they just hate seeing them together. I thought it was a great little set of comic relief on the side of everything that's going on with her trying to convince her sister to finally divorce this guy. And then finally, at the end of the movie, Sonic comes into his own shell and he learns how to combat Robotnik, who he aptly names Eggman. And that had just had a big smile on my face that they incorporated both names. He's stuck with the Eggman, and you can see Jim Carrey slowly gaining that concept of eggs in his mind from the very beginning of the movie. So it's just fleshed out in a way where you can see this guy is slowly losing his mind, and the way that he can incorporate eggs into all of his creations and his name. I think the final showdown could have been a little bit better. We did showcase speed with Sonic at the very end. Sonic really taps into his speed at the very end, but I think there could be more that could have come out of that whole interaction between him and Eggman at the end. But they knock Robotnik into another world, which I think is Mushroom Hill, or they're hinting at it being Mushroom Hill. It's a world filled with mushrooms. Sonic stays on Earth, and then Eggman gets knocked over there. And then during this whole process, we see an end scene, which had me grinning from ear to ear because Jim Carrey really knocks it out of the park at the very end. We really get the Eggman that we know and love at the very end. He has gone completely insane. His mustache is blown out, and he's talking to rocks because he had an assistant named Agent Stone who's not there with him anymore, and he's talking to a rock saying, "Hey, Agent Stone, do some reconnaissance." It's so well done, and Jim Carrey even makes more gruff in his voice, and he almost sounds like Mike Pollock at the end of that scene, who does the voice for Eggman normally in the games. So I am so excited to see what more he can do with this character. All these people are excited to do more. Jeff Fowler wants to direct another sequel. He's on board. Jim Carrey wants to do so much more with the character. He said this was an intro to what Eggman could really evolve into. And I know that he's interested in that real Eggman that we know and love, because the way he does it at the end is just perfection. I could not have asked for a better Eggman at the end of this movie. So yes, as a Sonic fan, I highly suggest that you check this movie out. It is fun from beginning to end. As a regular moviegoer, if you're not someone who's a huge Sonic fan, I still think it's fun to bring the family to. If you have younger kids who are not running around the theater whenever you take them to a movie, or if you have a younger brother or younger relative that we want to introduce into the Sonic fandom, I think this is a perfect entry into it, because it would just only interest them into the character in general. And it's so well done that it's not something that you would get bored with. It's a movie. As just a regular moviegoer, I give it a 7 out of 10. As a Sonic fan, it gets an 8 out of 10. They could have been more faithful to the lore. There are certain characters that are a little useless at the very beginning, but it has me asking for more. If this is just an alternate universe entirely, I'm okay with that. I just want more. I don't want this to be where it ends, because they did such a great job. And all the actors involved and the directors, they just seem to love this movie and seem to have so much fun working on it. And that brings an end to this whole saga with TheMentok and the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. But I will be looking forward to what comes out of this. It's still very early. Let's see if this is a box office hit. We need to see if there's going to be a sequel for sure. All of this stuff I'm going to keep tabs on, so you can trust me to report on that. With that said, my children, be safe. The prophet has spoken.